Welcome back, everyone, to Nerdwide.com's weekly podcast titled Hero Cravings, The Multiverse, where we cover and break down all Marvel TV shows, Gotham, Black Lightning, and Krypton, episode by episode for you, the listener. As always, I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Chris Rivers.
What's going on?
How are you, sir? How's your week?
Oh, it actually went by pretty quick this week.
Well,
It
that's
was
good,
good.
then. Anything
Yeah.
change it that way? TV shows?
Not. Well, yeah, yeah.
Uh, Quick housekeeping. Don't forget to share, rate, and review this podcast on whatever podcasting services you use. We are officially on YouTube, and we have been doing our best and have been uploading every one of these podcasts on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe to us there at youtube.com/nerdwide. Don't forget that Chris recaps Blacklist and Blindspot at purefilm.com, so make sure you check out his weekly recaps there. And starting this Monday, we are going to be doing weekly questions for Heroverse, for Arrowverse and Multiverse pertaining to the shows. At the end of the show, I'll read you off the question for this week, so make sure you're either on Facebook and or our Twitter for those polls and questions so you can partake in that there. Now, this is our 29th official episode, and let me give you a quick recap of how this bad boy is going to go down. Each week, we go through all the Multiverse TV episodes in order as they air. We're going to bring you our thoughts and reactions to every episode. That being said, we're going to jump right into it, to what is the Black Lightning episode 13, which is the finale, titled Shadow of Death, The Book of War. They gave us a shorter title this week.
Yay!
Still long.
Yeah.
We start off with a black and white flashback of young Jefferson Pierce and his dad 30 years ago, with Gamby and his dad having an argument about his dad's funeral. And his dad's funeral is the flashback. So we see the young Jeff and everything. We see the funeral. We found out that the argument between his dad and him was Gamby trying to talk down Jeff's dad. Obviously, he didn't. And we see his dad killed, by Tobias. We find out that Jeff has had his powers since he was a teenager, and upon seeing his powers in use, running from some cops, Gamby adopts young Jefferson Pierce, and that's how we got to this relationship now. We come back to normal time. We see that Jeff has still not woken up since being brought back to life from last episode, and we found that cyanide was found by Tobias and kind of adopted and molded into the assassin she is. And Chris, it wasn't scales. It was carbon fiber armor implanted underneath her skin.
That had to be extremely painful. And not only that, but that brings up the question. Whether you're going in under skin, I mean, basically they had to skin her.
Yeah.
And have her skin grow back. So is she, I guess, comic book wise, is she similar in some ways to Wolverine?
Right.
The ability to heal, and I don't know. That's
I don't get.
I'm not familiar with the comic, so
I feel like that's kind of impossible to do, anyways. But whatever. We see Tobias call Khalil Painkiller. I wonder if that's going to be his villain name, because he called him that like 2 or 3 times throughout the episode. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be his villainous name. We see Proctor trying to find Black Lightning and Thunder still, using whatever means necessary, and he tells his boardroom, "We're going to make America great again." And I was like, oh, God.
Oh, God.
Here we go. One of these guys. Tobias admits there was a reanimation process, and that's how he brought Lala back to life. But a side effect of this process is what we've been seeing with Lala is the tattoos and seeing dead people. Tobias calls him Tattoo Man, while Lala is like cringing in horror upon finding this information out, because he obviously does not want to live with these constant regrets and reminders and everything that he sees all the time, which I wouldn't want to be either. But we did finally get admitting that Tobias is the one who brought him back to life. Tobias wants to stop Martin Proctor as well for everything that's going on. So he puts a bomb inside of Lala, and he tries to take Proctor out that way. Obviously, it didn't work, but is Law really dead, Chris?
No, I don't think so. I think part of his regeneration is probably the ability to, you know, basically not die or die multiple times
Yeah, I
and
mean, this
just
was the last time
come
we saw
right
Law
back.
this whole episode. So I wonder if he's back next season. While Jeff is in his little death state or whatever you want to call it, when he's kind of laying there and deteriorating, he sees his dad. It has like a very emotional scene between the two. It's like a kind of like a little purgatory scene, and uh, it was a very touching, emotional scene for them. I suggest everyone watches it. And then of course Jeff wakes up finally after having this conversation because his dad says, it's not your time yet. There's still more you could do to the world, and here we are.
Right.
Jeff wakes up, like I said, and we find out he does not have his powers anymore. Did we ever get an answer of why? Because I mean, he didn't use all of his powers, but
I think it was probably just when his body died, all the electricity left it.
yeah,
All that ability was gone, and that it's like a car battery.
right.
And I can't remember. They may have even used that
I
analogy.
think they did. That really sounds familiar. Because I mean, you got to think about it. Like over the past however many years, he's been charging that battery.
Yeah.
So the ASA finally find Gambi's and the Pierce family's location. We see Tobias using his serum to keep him young and super strength. He just doesn't have. He's not just like this. He has to take a serum for it every day, or not every day, or
Yeah.
however many he takes it. But we find this big scene's starting to go down between the ASA, Thunder, and Black Lightning and everything. But Black Lightning picks up a gun because he can't use his stuff anymore. But we see Jennifer put her powers into her dad and kind of help jumpstart his powers. So I thought that was really cool how they did it that way, since their abilities are both extremely similar. Um,
Right.
a war starts out in North Freeland where Gambi and the Pierce family are holed up. The ASA, Black Lightning, and Thunder and the police are all involved in this war. Police at the very end of the war, but to each their own. But this is the first time we've seen Henderson since his episode 2, 2 episodes ago, with him heavily into it. It was a very kind of cool scene. We see that the ASA actually has a device that stops Thunder's powers. They didn't really explain it much, and I don't understand. It looked like kind of like a force field around her whole body.
Hmm.
But of course, Jeff catches on and takes out the force field gun user. We see that Jen uses her powers to protect her mom, which is the very first time we've actually seen her intentionally, do like a heroic thing like that,
Right.
And then we see Tobias and Cyanide and Khalil invade the ASA. They take down the whole organization in Freeland, but Proctor, of course, escapes while sacrificing his own douchebag. We see Black Lightning and his family track down the pods and actually confront Proctor. And then we see Gambi kill Proctor and says he is not letting him hurt any more kids anymore, period. And so he just shoots
Right.
him blank in front of everybody. Whatever. But what the Pierce family did very smartly is they leaked the information to the press about what the ASA was doing and drugging all these kids and everything. And
Hmm.
we see a bunch of citizens, praising Black Lightning and Thunder and talking about the government and all the stuff that they've been doing. A big mess for the ASA. But, before we leave the whole ASA, we see we find out that Proctor was on his own. He wasn't really working within the ASA. So he's basically just trying to prove himself and et cetera, et cetera. Didn't work out for you there, did it, buddy? And the episode ends with our Pierce family working out together, enjoying, back at their own house, all smiling, laughing, having a good time. And then we see Tobias declaring himself king of Freeland after opening the case that Proctor held so close to his body. What was inside of that case? I've got no earthly idea. Chris, do you have
Yeah.
anything?
I don't know, and we may never find out. They could use it as a bit of a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Uh, similar to the briefcase in Pulp Fiction,
Ooh, nice analogy.
where people have wondered for years what was in the briefcase. There's never been an answer given. It's not really important what was in the briefcase, but people keep talking about it,
Yeah,
and it might be what this is, but we may very well find out next season.
yeah.
It's something that apparently is supposed to be pretty powerful,
Because yeah, it like glowed green, kind of like the serum he
or
injects himself with. But
it could be that he was making that statement separate from what he saw in the briefcase.
right,
So it's hard to say.
yeah. We early numbers for this one 0.5 rating, which is steady. 1.68 million viewers, which is up 0.14. And of course, we are back for season 2, but this was our last one of season 1. Chris, I want to keep it pretty brief because we'll talk about it in a special later on. But what did this being the first season of Black Lightning, what did you think? Do you think it was a good show, great show? You know,
I thought it was good.
yeah,
I thought they did a good job setting up the characters. You know, most people had no idea who Black Lightning was before this show.
yeah, me included.
So yeah, so it's a little bit of a tough sell. The other shows in the Arrowverse are all well-known characters,
Yeah,
and so they were a little bit behind the eight ball with that, and they did a good job of setting it up and getting people interested. Those ratings that you talked about, that's about where they've been for the last half of the season. So they found their audience.
right. I liked it. I think it's gonna be great. I just really wish they'd put it in the Arrowverse.
Yeah, that's the next step.
Yeah. So, so long, Black Lightning. We'll see you this fall, hopefully. Of course, we don't know anything, but we'll talk more about it this summer once we, start ending off all of our shows and we have some little special tidbits and things like that, or more information. Next show we have is Krypton, episode 5, titled "The House of Zod." Just like we predicted last week, it is a heavy episode about the House of Zod. We see Seg returns to the compound that was holding him hostage. He tricked them a little bit, so he went back inside because, he did get stabbed in the arm. So he's not, doing very well. He finds another hostage there and frees her. We find out her name was Rika. And they try to escape the compound. She says she knows how to get out of there. We see Dev visits Lyda, Dev is the giant Sagittarius black guy that is with, we always see with Lyda. And he confesses his love to him, and Lyda says she loves him too, and they have a kiss scene. It's going to play out later on. But we find out that Seg finds a door with the House of El sigil on it, and while he's kind of looking around, he gets captured by a group that was with the freed hostage Rika. We're assuming that's our friend. So Seg gets taken to this another underground little group who praises the ice goddess, or she is the mother of Krypton, is what they say as well. But Chris, they're putting way too many groups in here.
Yeah, we talked last week. We haven't even gotten answers on Black Zero, and apparently Black Zero is the main opposition to the voice of Rao.
Right. And we
And
know nothing.
No, and we're already meeting what, 3 other groups that we've seen represented.
We still don't know about the group from last week.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they should have taken a page from the other shows' books. Most other shows, they'll introduce that one big bad.
Yeah.
They develop it, and then they come back with another group. Yeah, at least tell us who Black Zero is. At least give us a reason to care about Black Zero.
Right, because as of right now, we just see them as like a rebel faction and that nobody knows anything about.
Right.
So I feel like we're just with the voice around. They have no idea either. We see that Darren Vex and Cole Daw are an item. That was very weird. This is the first time seeing her in 2 weeks. And Darren goes into her cell and starts making out with her.
Mm-hmm.
Awkward, whatever. We got a little bit more backstory on the House of Zod. We see Jaina actually had a brother and they trained together. You know, of course, she's trained her daughter to show no mercy and all this other stuff. But we see a little bit more of what the House of Zod's like initiations and stuff were. They had to
Yeah.
go out into the Outlands, her and her brother, and go to the sword of somebody and then come back. But at the sword, there was only one respirator, and she essentially killed her brother so she could live, so she could
Hmm.
become a true member of the House of Zod. Wow, you know,
Well,
that's a little bit of a rough patch, you know.
I was wondering. I know I texted you at one point during the week, and I said I was wondering if she really killed her brother because we've been trying to figure out who the leader of this uh, faction is,
Yeah,
and I began to wonder if it might have been her brother
right.
because of where they're encamped.
Dude, it
But we got an
was.
answer on that later in the episode.
Oh yeah, and so that's a House of Zod crazy stuff. So we see Rika telling Seg that the House of El has actually destroyed her people before, and that's why her people have not let Seg go. Um, but Rika gives Seg a respirator anyways and sends him out into the Outlands. Meanwhile, as you know, we see Lyda's execution is starting to begin. Everyone's back in this chamber, which is the same chamber. I'm assuming it's the council chamber
Hmm.
where we see Seg's grandfather be exiled, and then we find out that the Vex has actually stopped the execution, and all charges against Lyda have been dropped due to Jaina swearing allegiance to the Vex to overthrow the voice of Rao. There's a big issue with this because Lyda comes up to her mother and says, "Thank you so much." She assumed it was the Vex, and Jaina said, "It was not the Vex who saved you." And she, Lyda put two and two together, and Jaina tells Lyda that she is her, she's her greatest love, but she's also her greatest shame. And I was like, ouch.
Right.
Because, we saw Jaina's past. She had basically had to kill her brother for this to be the, big thing of House of Zod. And the House of Zod is all about honor. But
Hmm.
instead of doing the honorable thing and protect the state, she saved her daughter's life. Um, and then we see Koldal gets killed. But they made it look like a suicide, and we find out that it was Darren Vex who did it to her. And Nissa was like, I know how much she meant to you, but this cause is better or whatever. Ah, that was that was weird. I felt like that they set this relationship up with Koldal and Darren Vex, and it played literally for less than a minute, and they killed her off.
Yeah.
But whatever, I guess. Seg finally gets in contact with Adam Strange and has a message delivered to Lyda. I thought that scene was really cool because we see that Seg is not just some fighter, type. That he's actually got some brains about him because he rigged the respirator as it was failing him to his communication device and was able to deliver a message. And meanwhile, we see Seg collapse in the Outlands because he's got no more oxygen. He's starting to get ice all over him. The message was basically to Lyda that to keep fighting on, that he loves her, and that he just wished he could tell her in person one last time, or kiss her one last time, or something like that. Something, mushy gushy romantic.
Hmm.
So Lyda, Adam, and a random lieutenant go out to try and find Seg. We assume Lyda finds Seg, but it is actually the people who originally kidnapped him, this mysterious burly black guy who has no regret for anything. Then we find out that Lyda and Co. do find Seg based off of heat signatures out in the Outlands. And Lyda has a battle with this leader of whoever this group is. And as she is beating him up, he starts laughing. And she goes, "What are you laughing about?" And he says, "It's you." And she was like, "What do you mean?" And he pulls out this necklace. And she says, "Who did, because this necklace is passed down from House of Zod generation to generation." And Lyda has it around her neck because Jaina obviously gave it to her. And she goes, "Who gave you that?" And he said, "You did. I'm actually your son." And the episode ends. I was like,
Yeah.
what the heck just happened? Like, it was the biggest plot twist for me. Had no idea. And I know we discussed yesterday about this whole scene and scenario, but it is her son, but what the biggest plot twist about this is it's General Zod, the
Yeah,
General Zod from Superman.
yeah.
So, I mean,
That's
so many questions now, right?
well,
Oh,
it's a little bit of a game changer.
yeah, no
Um,
kidding.
but you know, now we know who he is, so that solves a little bit of the puzzle. The problem is, what was this, episode 5?
Yep, we got
So
five
we're
more.
yeah, we're halfway through, and like we were saying, we don't know who Black Zero is. We know that he has said he's not Black Zero.
Right. Obviously not anymore because he's General Zod. So I don't. What's the whole point? I'm not 100% familiar with Superman and General Zod and everything, but from what I've like read up on, he was good friends with Jor El, and he considers Jor El the traitor because of the whole planet blowing up and everything. And obviously, the House of Zod is extremely honorable towards the state, and
Right.
they kind of put that more in effect here. But I was thinking that was her uncle, Lyda's uncle, like we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
But he didn't. Nope, not the uncle. There's a whole
I
twist into everything.
yeah, I'm just I
Let's
don't know if they
add
can.
something else to this whole
I,
giant mix.
I don't know if they can do in 5 episodes what they need to do to make all this pay off, unless someone that we've already seen is Black Zero. I mean,
Yeah, I'm with you.
it's just, are we missing something? Is it
I don't.
are are
I don't know. From what
are
I've seen, we're not. But uh,
because
uh
right now it's very confusing.
yeah.
Because I don't know if Darren and oh, what's her name?
Oh,
Darren and his daughter
Nissa,
Nissa. I
beautiful
don't
actress.
know. I don't know if they're supposed to be Black Zero.
Yeah, and, it could be
And
like they are, cause just a name.
yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll find out in the future because they're trying to overthrow the voice of Rao, which we did not see all episode. Because remember, last episode he got taken over by the Century.
right.
So I'm sure that'll be next thing. Early numbers: 0.2 rating, which is down 0.1. 0.72 million viewers, which is down 0.23. And this is the lowest rated yet in overnights for the show.
Not
Which,
good.
no, 0.2 rating, Chris. Not good at all.
No.
Excuse me. And the next episode is titled Civil Wars. No prediction there, if you ask me. And then
No.
we have, oh, I got the
Um,
hiccups. That's not good. No, not good at all.
unless we find out um more about Black Zero, maybe this is where the different factions
Start
start
playing
to
out.
start to bubble up, start fighting.
Oh, I hope so. Um, Next show we have on the agenda is Gotham Season 4, Episode 19, To Our Deaths and Beyond. What an episode. We're going to jump right into this bad boy. Again, we're going to test out this whole, just do a quick recap and not break it down to heroes and villains. I'm curious to see how it works out. See if it's easier for you guys, a listener, instead of jumping around. So, start off with Barbara gets tested by her League of Shadows. They sneak up on her and attack her and try and kill her. But it was just a test. She's obviously very pissed off about this. We see Selena and Bruce in his brand new bulletproof vehicle. They're driving in his new car and to go meet with Tabitha. Little did we know that Tabitha, is working with the League of Shadows, and they thank Selena for bringing them there, but they needed Bruce. But what did they need Bruce for, Chris? Well, they cut his hand open over Raish's dead body and bring Raish back to life.
Yep.
Wow. This weird little cult thing they chanted, come back to life with the blood of your defeat or something like that. It was very culty.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not 100% whole yet. He's very zombified and gross looking from what we can see underneath his hood. But we go to Gordon and Bullock. They find out that 5 banks were robbed in one night. Well, if you remember from several episodes ago, Riddler and Lee were like, they're going to do this. Obviously, it's who it is. We find out that, in fact, that they did rob the banks, obviously, and they're giving the money back to the people of the Narrows. They're not really so much keeping it for themselves. It's very Robin Hood-esque.
Hmm.
Very weird, though, if you ask me. I would have kept the money because they had, what, some odd $1 million?
Yeah.
But as they're distributing this money, we find out that Butch and Penguin show up and want a part of what they are planning. They actually said they owe them for all the help that they've done, and obviously they laughed in their faces. But before that is said and done, we see Barbara refusing to give Raish back the demon's head. She said, "I'm going to give it back to you. You gave this to me for a reason." He tries to, spin this whole story that the painting was of a whore and not her, which
Hmm.
obviously is not the truth. So Raish tries to kill her for denying giving her back the head, which why he couldn't, just take it back in this instance, whatever. But we see Barbara, Bruce, Alfred, Tabitha, and Selena at the mansion planning to get this knife back that was sold back to the museum. They do get it back, obviously. Then we see Barbara and Tabitha betraying Bruce and Alfred, and they steal Bruce's car. Surprise, surprise! Who didn't see this coming? I mean, it's villainy 101. But we see, there's another scene, a fight scene happens. Barbara stabs Raish, but did absolutely nothing to him.
Right.
And then fight scene keeps going on, and then Barbara gets stabbed in the back by Raish, and then she's finally able to use the demon's head effectively. She turned back time and was able to, do everything she needed to do. So she obviously mastered the demon's head. And then we see Tabitha get her throat slit because it was either give up the demon's head or Tabby dies. Tabby gets killed by Raish, but we got this whole demon's head power, so she turns back time and gives Raish back the demon's head, and
Yep.
it gives Raish his body 100% back to normal, and he is officially back in the world. We saw a little bit of a redemption, with Barbara doing this to save Tabitha. Um, I would have kept the power, but that's just me. Uh,
Yeah.
so, and then we see that the Riddler betrays Lee and sides with Penguin and Butch, and then betrays them for Lee, to get all this money. And Lee sacrifices herself to get arrested by Gordon, so Riddler could escape with the money to give back to the Narrows, which was like, we never got like a big estimate, but it was like 100 million a piece if you would have divided it between like the
Yeah.
3 people. So I'm assuming it's like 300 mil, but which is all going back to the Narrows, which is starting to blow my mind. So it's a lot of money, Chris. We're gonna see what it does. I'm sure next episode. But before we get to it, we see that the ladies of the League of Shadows still pledge their allegiance to Barbara, even though she does not have the demon's head. Um, so the power, I think, is still going to all go back to Barbara's head. And then Bruce and Selena have a nice little moment. They almost kiss in his foyer, and Raish interrupts them. He says, "Sorry, terrible timing." And he was listening to their whole conversation. They're having a conversation about Raish and what they need to do about him. And they said if there was a reason he was left alive and why he didn't let Bruce kill him again. And he says yes. And he said just because when I got my powers back, he said I saw a vision, and that vision was of Gotham burning down, and it's going to either forge Bruce into a dark knight or kill him in the process. And scene, we end the episode. Now, Chris, do you have any predictions on this whole thing? Because I mean, this whole season, there's not arcs, anymore, but it's all titled A Dark Knight and then the episode.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to what we see happen in the future. Do we see, is this the
It's
last we see of Raish, or we said that you said in the pre-show rather that this is potentially setting up for when Bruce in the Nolan films goes to Ra's al Ghul. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've heard um, people discussing the fact that they think this is it for Gotham. This is going to be the last season.
Yeah,
Uh, we hope it's not, but if it is, they could use this as the jumping off point. I don't. They're not connected,
no,
but you could easily slide this series in front of the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, and it fits.
yeah. I feel like it would sync up very well. Well, besides,
Aspects of it.
yeah, aspects. There we go. Uh, I'm. I don't want this to be the last season, but again, it very well could be. We still haven't heard anything, which is fine, but I don't know. Early numbers, 0.6 rating, down 0.1, 2.37 million viewers, which again is a lot of people, which is down 0.19, which is the lowest overnights this season. I mean, if our other shows are pulling crappy numbers and they're still getting renewed, Chris, this should be able to get renewed.
Yeah, but different network.
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
true. It could be, the Disney and Marvel overlords trying to phase out DC shows from their channels. Next episode is titled The Old Corpse, and we're actually taking a week hiatus from the show. So we come back May 3rd for Gotham. The Old Corpse. That Old Corpse, excuse me, is the title. Theories? I have nothing.
The only, well, the most recent old corpse was Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of who else we might have.
Butch, maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
is there someone else that we could get the return of some fashion?
We haven't seen Fish Mooney.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's your theory?
No, I said that's fine that we haven't seen Fish Mooney. I don't know, man. I wouldn't mind. I do wish that they would work Ivy back in.
Yeah, because we just had that 3-episode arc, basically, and that's it. But then again, everything... I bet it's about Joker. Or Jeremiah. Somehow,
Could
some
be.
way. I don't know. Next on the agenda is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., episode 518, All Roads Lead. We see Fitz and Simmons, obviously under captive by Ruby and Von Strucker. They declare to each other that they would do anything to keep each other from dying and from harm. We're seeing a bunch of their love here, because if you think about it, in the past 5 seasons, how many times have they been separated and each thought each are dead and et cetera, I get this thinking. We do see Yo-Yo for the first time since last episode. She's actually on the Quinjet, and she's like in immense pain due to her arms malfunctioning because she uses her powers, and she passes out. We see that Creel has gotten much worse since the last time we saw him, and Hale goes to talk to Creel and notices that, or not really notices, but realizes that the gravitonium absorbs people because of the 2 people we've seen that it absorbs. With that information, what she does, not really a whole lot. We see Coulson and Mac tell Deke that he is in love with Daisy. Hilarious scene ensues, talking about lemons and everything. He was like, "No, I don't love her. No." They're like, "Yeah, you did. You when you were on your pain medicine, you confessed your love." And I thought that was a great scene between the 3, and I feel like that's what makes up the Shield, is the humor that they put in there occasionally, especially with Coulson. We see Quake and Agent May infiltrating the OG Hydra base where Hale is. Hale surrenders in order to work together so they could get to Ruby and stop what's happening to Ruby. We see Talbot, of course, we saw him last episode, kind of a little brainwashed by Hydra. He goes into Robin's room and starts going through her drawings and then gets caught by Robin and her mother. Talbot then knocks out Robin's mother, which I thought for a second he killed her, but he did not. And then we flash over to Fitz and Simmons. They finish fixing the chamber while May and Hale and Quake all land at the facility. We see Talbot escape. Well, he kidnaps Robin. And then Ruby finally undergoes this transformation with the gravitonium. She was only able to get transfused with 8% of the process when Hale runs in and stops it. And then we see Ruby flying. And then she killed Von Strucker by very painful and very grossly. Like, she squished his head in, is the only way I can explain that.
Yeah.
You know, we've said this season they are not shying away from the Grizzly stuff, and I love it. But, like, his head was, like, squished in, and she didn't mean to. She's now infected with the memories of the gravitonium, and she throws Fitz and Simmons against this wall. We see Coulson and Max save Robin by Coulson using the same, code phrases, and they stopped Talbot, and they iced him. And we're having the scene with Hale, Quake, and Ruby. They're trying to save her because she's still a little girl, essentially.
Yeah.
I would say like she's a high schooler. Is that what you put her age at?
Yeah, should be.
So I mean, it's because she's still taking classes and everything. This is what I assume her age is. But Yo-Yo pops back up on the scene. She walks into this room. Of course, May, Fitz, and Simmons are escorted out. But Yo-Yo shows up and sees what's going down and that Ruby's not really controlling her powers really well. And then she killed Ruby. So, I mean, Yo-Yo slits her throat with her own blade. And we're assuming it's out of revenge or because of what she did to her arms. But, wasn't so much the case, but we'll get there here in a second. The gravitonium, floated Ruby up into the air after she was killed and then caused some sort of explosion. Did we ever get really much of an answer for that? Is that just like the gravitonium leaving her body? Or what was that really about,
Could have been, because there didn't seem to be any effect from it.
Yeah.
No.
Besides knocking everybody out for a couple seconds.
Yeah. So.
And then we see Hale escape, and Yo-Yo states that she just saved the world by killing Ruby, which is the destroyer of worlds, the world killer. Or did she, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know that she saved the world.
Yeah.
We don't know. That's the thing about having a storyline like this. You don't really know if what they're doing is what they did in the past when the world quaked apart.
Right.
Or if they've changed something. So Yo-Yo doesn't. Well, actually, Yo-Yo may be the only one that knows.
Right.
So it's possible, but the world could have been quaked apart by this alien invasion that's coming, based on the previews for next week. So
yeah, because Hale escapes. She escapes this whole thing, and she goes back to the Confederacy, and she tells the people that the gravitonium is in the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that they could take them out by any means necessary. We find out that the guy's name is Kovas. Now, did we ever get a name for Cassius' dad?
I can't remember. I don't think so.
I don't think we did either. And so I'm curious if this is his dad, because we all know it kind of started with this, but we really don't know. And then, of course, like you said, the previews show the invasion that's coming. So I don't. We finally getting our team back together though, to an extent. So I'm curious to see what happens. Early numbers 0.4 rating, which is steady. 1.66 million viewers is down just 0.3, and then the next episode is titled Option 2. I've got nothing. That could go to a lot of things.
It could. I don't know. It could be the adjustment of the timeline.
Right.
Who knows? We-
But will we ever really know, though? That's the biggest thing for me.
The only one that can tell them is Robin. She's the
Yeah.
only one that would know if it changed.
Um. Now, Chris, now we're all out of shows here. It is time for the fan favorite segment we like to call Douche Canoe of the Week. Now, who holds this beautiful honor? Not really beautiful, but degrading honor is what I'll go with here.
Anyone that would use the term "Make America Great Again."
Yeah.
It's got to be Martin Proctor.
Yep. And we assume this will be his official last time as being Douche Canoe. R.I.P.
Yeah, I think he's definitely dead.
Yeah. Now, Chris, who holds the beautiful and glorious honor of Hero of the Week this week?
We went with Yo-Yo.
Yeah. Could be controversial because did she act out of revenge or did she act in the sanctity of trying to fix the future? You know?
Right.
I want to say she did it for the sake of the future. That's why, she's Hero of the Week here. Now, Chris, I want to know, my biggest question to you is right now, what was your favorite episode this week?
I had to go with Shield.
It was
Yeah.
good.
It was. We got some major moments in there. The Talbot bit was very interesting.
Him almost killing himself
Yeah.
was very heroic for himself, but Coulson really wants him alive.
And I hope that doesn't backfire on Coulson. Because we're still in that loop as far as we know. So it's possible that Talbot could have a hand in Coulson's death.
Well, and that's what future Yo-Yo said is to let Coulson die, don't try to save his life. Do you think that equated to this week? Or have we not seen anything yet?
I don't know that we've seen anything yet. It's and this whole thing of being in the loop, it's just like when Fitz went over and shut the gravitonium off at 8%, and I was thinking he didn't even consider that maybe he should have left it going.
Right. But I mean, they could have been.
So,
We saw how much of a problem Ruby was with only 8%. Could you imagine if they got anywhere like close to 50?
well, she wouldn't have been able to have
Survived.
yeah. It might have killed her in the machine. So.
Yeah. I don't know, man. My favorite episode this week was Black Lightning. I felt like over all the shows, it shined the brightest. Krypton had a great finale. A great ending to the episode. Definitely had a WTF moment that threw me through a loop. Shield was really good. I'm glad that the team's back together, but I had to go with Black Lightning just because of all the epicness it had with the finale, and it's hard to pick against anything that has a finale because they like to wrap things up and do things spectacularly. So, and they did. Now, we said at the beginning of the episode we are going to do questions every week on our Facebook and or Twitter. And the question is this week for the Multiverse is, do you think the team will be able to save Coulson and or the world? That will be going up on Monday in poll fashion. You can answer with your own answer if you have something different than what we're going to put up there. But follow our Twitter and Facebook there. Now, Chris, you got anything else for this week that we need to touch on before we sign off?
No, just one last reminder that Gotham doesn't come on this week. So next week's show, we're going to be a little light.
Yeah, because we won't have Black Lightning and we won't have Gotham.
We'll be Krypton and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So
you want to do 2 listener mail questions next week?
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, there you go, guys. And if you want to send your questions in for Multiverse, either send it in to our Nerdwide account, which I'll give here in a minute, or you can email us at nerdwide@gmail.com. Send in your questions there. No question is dumb. Send them in. Now, that's it for this week, guys. So make sure you just review us and share us around on your favorite podcasting services. Don't forget to follow Nerdwide on Twitter at nerd_wide. You can follow me personally at Ty_Haynes. And you can follow Mr. Rivers at MavTN7. Don't forget, if you do follow us on any of those accounts, let us know what show you came from and if you've got any feedback for the show as well as any questions. As always, I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, with the man himself, Chris Rivers, and we cannot wait to share our thoughts with you next week.
See you next week, people.